You're listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft and people who play it. Today is November 9th, 2021, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing this fine Tuesday?
Oh, Spencer, I'm doing well. It's unseasonably warm in my neck of the woods today. It's a lovely, almost spring-like day out here in early November. A bit of a hectic day for me, hectic week, outside of WoW. So I guess that's just life, as you get older and your responsibilities pile up. I think, I'm just in that phase of life where that stuff doesn't stop. It just kind of keeps accelerating.
Well,
but
you should be happy there's warmer weather so those old bones don't hurt quite as much.
Yeah, exactly. My trick knee's not acting up today or anything. Doing great. We got, kind of actually a light week of like actual WoW news, but there's so much stuff percolating. So it's exciting. 915 is out in the wild now. We saw like minimal hot fixes, I would say, compared to what I was kind of expecting in the first week. But, patch seems to have landed pretty well. I'm not noticing a giant influx of people coming back. Not that I expected to, but I'm just glad that it's here. I feel like the stuff that was sort of baked into Shadowlands at the outset is now sort of reached its final form. And, I hope that it's an opportunity for people to really engage with the systems and enjoy them if they haven't up to this point.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into all the things I did this past week. I played more World of Warcraft this past week than I probably played in the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever combined.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. I had that drive and that grind back, and I want to dive into it. But before we do, I want to get the ABK stuff out because it's huge news that we got from there.
Some really big news last night. This came across a Better ABK's Twitter account, and it seems like Blizzard has reached some new terms with their contract and temporary workers. The terms are as follows: all temporary workers will receive Thanksgiving and winter breaks as paid time off. Minimum hourly rate for all temporary employees is increased to $17 an hour. Beginning January 1st, 2022, all temporary workers will receive 13 paid holidays each year. Our agency partners have agreed to match the sick paid time off that we offer to Blizzard temporary employees, increase the number of accruable sick time to 9 days each year. Those employed by Blizzard already have this benefit, and we're going to begin new career growth and learning programs as part of temporary workers development. Additional information is forthcoming. So this is good news. This is a big win. There's a but here. There's a big spicy meatball hanging out there, which you may have twigged as I'm reading this to you, which is that these are still pretty rough working conditions. $17 an hour is not a lot of money for the kind of specialized labor that a lot of these people are performing. Blizzard's facilities are in pretty high cost of living areas. $17 an hour is not really enough to support yourself on, to support a family on, etc. This is just the fact that this is a huge win, and it's like, oh, you get Thanksgiving off, you get winter break off when all of the salaried employees are gone for 2 weeks. You get 13 paid holidays a year and 9 sick days. Like this is, what did they have before? Where was the bar? Like it's great, and this is the result of the workers acting collectively and working together to make a better company and have better conditions, looking out for each other, whether they're temporary, contract, full-time, part-time, salaried, hourly, whatever the case is. This is a win for everybody that works under that banner, and it's awesome, but this is nowhere near enough. Like this is a sign. Last week we talked about some big wins in terms of concessions that Bobby Kotick publicly made. This is another win, but it's clearly not enough. And I hope the employees keep pushing for better working conditions, more equity, a bigger stake in the company, and better standards of living for the people that make these games that we love to play so much. This is great news because this makes conditions immediately better for the people that are affected by this. But I think it's insufficient. This isn't really providing people with, a high standard of living, considering what's expected of them when it's time to like QA out a game and get it out the door, right? That's a big time commitment. That's a lot of labor involved in doing that. So hopefully this isn't the end. Hopefully this is just one step in a much longer process of improving conditions and compensation at the company. I mean, this news came out and everybody's like, oh, congratulations, but keep going. This is what I'm seeing on Twitter, keep fighting for more because, I'm a janitor and I make more money than this. And I'm not trying to denigrate that profession. I think all labor is valuable, but
you're talking about
you can't,
it doesn't require a particular skill set to
you,
get.
you can't just grab somebody off the street and do what a lot of these workers do. They need to have experience in the industry, and also Blizzard can afford it. Blizzard has billions of dollars. They can afford to pay people what their labor is worth. So, and I mean, that's another thing too. Like, we are seeing upward pressure on wages in the US. Is $17 an hour is maybe that's not even attractive compared to what you're seeing in other places that will hire off the street because they need bodies to staff a retail store or, service environment or whatever. Why would you do the backbreaking kind of labor that, they hire temps and contractors for, doing QA and whatnot, dangling that full-time carrot that may never arrive under these types of conditions? And the reason why, I asked this question rhetorically, the reason why is because working in games is aspirational, right? People want to work in games because they love games, and games are cool, and games are a big part of people's lives. Games make you feel good. Games make you happy. So it's natural to want to work in games, which means that a lot of people are willing to allow themselves to be taken advantage of so that they can work in games. Like, yeah, I can make $19.50 working overnights at Target, but I'd rather work in games and make less than that and be treated worse than that. And that's a sad truth. Blizzard's in a good position. They're in a strong bargaining position. They can get labor because people want to work there. This kind of compensation it continues to not be equitable. It's not an appropriate rate of compensation, in my opinion, for a company with Blizzard's resources and profile, and for the expectation of me as a customer, like the expectation of the product, right? I want high quality products. I pay premium dollars to buy their products. I'll buy the collector's edition. I'll buy the pre-order buy-ups or whatever, because I expect a high level of quality. Well, how do you ensure a high level of quality? I think a good way to start is to compensate your people, keep them healthy and happy and productive. And that includes things like sick days and paid holidays and paid time off and fair hourly compensation. So, really, I'm really glad to see this. Like, they didn't have to do this. Like, they are budging. We're seeing dominoes fall. It's not going as quickly as maybe we would like it to be, and it's not going as far as we'd like it to be yet, but they continue to gain momentum. So I'm glad for it. I hope this improves, the lives of the people that it directly impacts, and I want to see more.
Yeah, so the California minimum wage is $14 an hour. They're paying $17, so they are paying a few dollars above that. Where I live, it's $15 an hour. It went up recently in Ontario. And I agree with you that for a certain skill set you're looking for doing this sort of work, 17 just doesn't feel appropriate, especially in California where it is expensive to live. And I'm shocked, honestly, that it's $14 an hour in California, because I don't know anyone who could live off that there. The other thing I want to highlight is it's temporary workers. So as much as I really do want to highlight this is good steps in the right direction. This is moving in the correct direction. It's just not enough as far as what people are looking for. The temporary workers receiving Thanksgiving and winter breaks as paid time off is great if you're working during Thanksgiving or winter breaks, because it's temporary work, which means they might not have workers who are working during those periods of time. So that isn't a benefit you're necessarily going to get unless they actually need you during that period of time. And it wouldn't surprise me if they were not needing people during winter break, because the whole company shuts down anyways. So why would they have temporary workers working during that unless their contracts ran through that, which I can't see them doing. The other factor here for me is the 13 paid holidays each year is fantastic. I think that's great, simply because as a temporary worker, you don't get any. The majority of the time when you're temporary working, you don't get vacation, you don't get sick days. Those aren't things they give you. So the fact they're giving them 9 sick days and 13 holidays each year is great. I'm thrilled that they're doing that. That is an overall positive change. Could it be better? Sure. Could there be something where, depending on how many repeat contracts you work, those vacation days go up? I think that'd be great. At a certain point, I don't know why it's not a full-time employee if that's what you're doing, but I do feel like this is very shiny wrapping paper on a mediocre gift is what this feels like to me. Because when you dig into it, you're excited when you look at it, but when you dig into it, it's a little bit less exciting. I am glad they're doing the new career growth and learning programs, because Blizzard does tons of them. They do tons of these extra programs you can take to learn new skill sets and, shift yourself around as far as within the company where you want to work. And if those weren't available to temporary workers, or temporary workers had to pay to attend those, that's ridiculous. So I'm glad they're beginning to offer those more often. That's great. I think that's a great thing for them as well. So I think in the end, it's a good step in the right direction. I think there's more that could be done, and I worry about seeing things like temporary workers get winter breaks, because they're bringing in these workers. My assumption, and people can feel free to reply if I'm wrong, but my assumption is they bring in these workers near or around launches of products to QA things, test things, have extra labor on hand to be able to cover those crunch periods when they're trying to get something out the door, or they just got something out the door. And those might fall near Christmas, but I also feel like if the company's shutting down for Christmas and those winter holidays, they probably aren't keeping those workers on during that period of time. So
it depends. Yeah, it depends on the contract duration. I would imagine that any of these positions are probably contracted for X amount of time, and if it falls during the holidays, then sure,
then
and
great.
If not, then not.
Yeah.
I think the thing here is that it's good progress, but I feel like when it comes to stuff like this, maybe they have a little bit farther to go than we realize from the outside.
Yeah.
To me, this was like, oh, cool. And then I read it and I thought about it. I'm like, ooh, this is what have they been doing up to this point?
The point you made of what has this looked like up till now is one of those interesting questions of, like, were they paying them $14 an hour? Was it minimum wage job? Like, is this generic laborer work with people who actually have education and background and game design or whatever it is to have these roles, and you're just paying them generic laborer work? That's not great. So yeah, I'm glad it's a step in the right direction. All right, back to World of Warcraft. Let's talk about World of Warcraft. I'm gonna start off because I had a great week in World of Warcraft, and I don't know,
Nice.
Jason's been a little down on it the past couple weeks, so I'm gonna start on a high note. I played the crap out of this game this past week. I had vacation, which was probably the best part about all of it. I was very happy when that all lined up, but it meant that I logged in on Tuesday and was able to start hopping into brawls, because I heard through the grapevine that PvP brawls for this past week, which was the Arathi Basin CPU comp stomp, like ridiculous, and you could get renown from it. So you had a chance to get renown from winning a comp stomp, and most comp stomps were happening in about 5 to 6 minutes. And so you could just crush these over and over and over again to try and get renown. So I swapped over to Venthyr and started crunching on these to get... I swapped over to Venthyr. I bought my 40 renown token and used that immediately. And I went and did... What I actually did is I went and I did all the Soulbind quests, because that was another great way to get renown. You get double renown for any of the questing that you're doing as far as that goes. So you get 2 of them. So I did that. It probably took me about 2 hours to do the Soulbind stuff. And then, yes, I was doing Comp Stomp and grinding that out. And I finished doing Venthyr with Comp Stomp. So I did about 15 or 16 Comp Stomps on top of doing the questing, and that got me to 80. And I then, I also did 3 emissaries in there as well, because I'd banked those up, and I killed the world bosses, and those, potentially give you renown, and, et cetera, et cetera. Got me a bunch of renown, which was great. So I finished that, and then I moved on to doing Necrolord, because I was like, hey, why not? Let's get Necrolord done up too. Right. I have this time off. Let's jump into this. Pumped that up to 40. Did all the questing. Got that leveled up, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to run a Torghast. Let's just see how a Torghast goes. And then Torghast gave me renown, and I was like, oh, I found another way to farm renown.
Right.
Well, this is interesting. And so I started doing something that I was incredibly pleased I discovered, which is I ran Torghast 10s, which means you only have 1 Torment and you still have 3 blessings. And the blessing that I got for the week was the first 3 things you attack have 70% reduced health.
I love that one. That's for 3 elites, right? So it's
Yep.
like, yeah, you just go for the big boys.
So I stealthed/ran all the way to the boss on each floor, and then shadow melded to drop any aggro if I had any. I hit the boss, it would drop to 40k to 70k hit points. I'd kill the boss. There's only 3 bosses because they shortened the amount of floors in Torghast, which meant that I could get to the last boss within Torghast with only killing 3 mobs, which were the 3 end bosses of the previous floors, and then attack that last boss, which meant I could run a Torghast 10 in under 3 minutes.
Wow, that's like really time efficient
With
for
repeatable
cinders.
rewards.
Yeah,
I now have over 15,000 soul cinders.
nice.
I maxed out Necrolord, and so I now have maxed out Necrolord, Venthyr, and Night Fae, and my Kyrian is at like 57 or 58. I decided not to do the Torghast grind on Kyrian because I was swimming in soul cinders. After I crafted 2 new legendaries, I upgraded a legendary, I did a bunch of stuff. I still have like 15,000 soul cinders, which is plenty because you can buy sockets with soul cinders. Don't forget, you can buy sockets with them.
Yeah,
so you can
that's,
head out
that's
and do
what
that.
I do usually because I'm done with rank 6 legendaries.
Yeah, there you go. And so I left that because what I'm basically doing now is on Tuesday, like today, I'm logging in, I'm switching over to Kyrian, I'm picking up the emissaries, I'm going and doing the get 1,000 anima, I'm doing all those things to just get a bunch of renown on my character, and I'm dumping all the anima into my Venthyr vault because I want to upgrade Venthyr. I managed to get all of the structures except for the court upgraded up to tier 3, so the court's now at tier 2, and I'm gonna work it away. It's like 100,000 anima or something ridiculous to actually be able to max those things out, so it takes some time to do. Oh no, it's not 100. It's like 60,000 anima, but it's 200 and something souls. So I did a lot of soul farming this past week too.
I'm sure that gets a little bit old after a while.
Well, I tell you, when you're grinding
go back every time, right?
When you're grinding Torghast for renown, you're doing a lot of Torghast, which gets you a lot of souls.
Right.
So,
but you got to go back to your sanctum every time, right? You can't just like farm souls and definitely then turn in 20 at a time. You got to get the quest, get 20, go back, turn them in, get the quest, go get souls, come back.
I think it took me 3 runs to get 20 souls doing my little speed run. So in under 3 minutes, so basically in like 10 minutes, well, probably let's say 12 minutes because there's like load times and whatnot. I could get the 20 souls plus have cleared 3 Torghasts for rewards, plus had gotten a chance at renown from those. So potentially 3 renown, 2 renown probably on average from those runs, which was great for 10 to 12 minutes of work. So I didn't mind the hearthing back, turning it in. Like that is a thing. But it doesn't bother me that much. It wasn't like a huge barrier.
Yeah, I guess if it's like every 3rd one and you're doing
your
Hearthstone's
back up
stuff,
anyways. Yeah. Like it wasn't rough at all as far as that goes. And then when I was kind of wanting to watch TV or something while I was playing the game, I could just run around the maw and collect souls if that's what I wanted to do too. You can get 20 souls in like 8 or 9 minutes just running around the maw if that's what you're wanting to do. So that didn't take me long either. But yeah, it was great doing that and cranking that out. I had a really fun time playing around with the different covenants. I crafted a legendary for each of the covenants so that I could actually have something viable for each of those specs. So I crafted the your dots tick faster legendary, which is also okay for Resto Druid. It's not great. It's probably not what I would use if I was going to be playing Necrolord right now. I think you still use Pulsar. I think it's still the best Boomkin legendary for that covenant, but I just wanted to have one. And since I was swimming in soul cinders, why not just craft them? I mean, why not? It's a thing.
I mean, how many sockets are you realistically going to need? And that's really the only 2 things soul cinders are for.
Yeah. So for me, it was, and it's not like I can't get more. Like that's what it felt like to me. Of hey, if you're wanting to farm out renown or farm out legendary stuff really easily, then by all means, just run Torghast 10s where you only have to deal with 1 torment. And if you have Shadow Meld or you have a way of dropping aggro like Feign Death or whatever, just run to the last boss of the floor and then Shadow Meld off the aggro and attack that last boss. Like you can do that, and you're not gonna get your upper floors stuff. You're not gonna get that. You're only gonna get like 120 points, kind of idea. But it's
right. You're not gonna be getting the cosmetics and all the high end stuff. But I mean, those are different goals that you are going into the mode with. So it's kind of it's cool that it works like that if that's what you're trying to get out of it.
What I found, though, is that there is not enough anima in the world at the moment for me to get all the stuff I want to get with anima. Like, oh my goodness. I am definitely feeling the crunch of I can earn like 5,000 or 6,000 anima a day. Like, that's a thing you can do, but it's not enough because I need more because there's all these things I want to buy. And now that I can switch covenants, I want to buy all the cosmetics for all the different covenants. I probably need like 300,000 anima or something ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood to like buy out a covenant from top to bottom. It's probably somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe even a little bit more. So yeah, that's not something you're going to do in a week. You know, aren't those repeatable sources of anima. Like you could get on the farm and you can go do world quests every day and do your weeklies and just do Korthia and the Maw and the Rift top to bottom. That'll be a lot, but yeah, you're not going to have every single thing that's on every vendor in a single covenant in 1 week from doing for sure.
But what it's meant for me, and this is the thing that we always talk about, is it's giving me something to grind. Me and you like the grind. We like a reason to get on, a reason to do things. And previously it was like, oh, okay, well, I have very limited sources of anima I can get a day. So I sort of do this minimal route, and then we ran out of things to spend anima on, and then anima was capping inside of our wells, so we couldn't actually like benefit from having more anima because it ended up in your bags. You couldn't even turn it
30K,
in.
Right? Yeah. I spent so much anima on gear tokens that I vendored for like pennies on the dollar because the cap was so low for so long.
So I'm pretty thrilled that I'm in a position now where I have things to spend anima on. It's a farm I don't mind doing. I enjoy doing the grind. And I'm also, because I left Kyrian alone, I didn't just grind it out to 80. I'm able to go over to Kyrian and do all these grinds and actually get renown while I'm doing this stuff from emissaries and whatnot. And I just have that anima sitting in my bags and just go back over to Venthyr and turn it all in. So that was I'm enjoying it. I'm digging the game. It's having a good time. So that's great. So I am thrilled with 915. It was almost as good as I expected. Mission table stuff's still pretty weird. You do cancel all your missions when you switch between covenants. So if you send out a mission and then you switch covenants, it will cancel the mission you sent out. But it also changes all the rewards and all the missions you have. So
really?
If I'm like, say,
trying
to get a Divine Bell, for example, I could just stand inside of Oribos and switch covenants back and forth until it appears on the page. Because
that sounds
there's
like fun.
nothing stopping you from doing that, which is very weird. It's one of those cases where, like, if the goal of not letting us send missions out on one covenant is to stop people from feeling like that's the best way to do things, this other thing is also not something they want to be the best way to do things. Like, I feel like there needs to be some sort of adjustment made where I can't just go, hey, you know what? Let's just see what Night Fae quests I have, missions I have. Oh, don't like any of those. Okay, I'll switch to Kyrian. Which Kyrian ones do I have? I don't like those either. Let's switch back to Night Fae. Oh, hey, look, there's the Night Fae one I want. Okay, let's go send that one. Like, that's a little weird.
It is a little weird, although it's kind of nice you can do that, I guess. Like, I don't know. If you're shooting for like one of the trinkets or something that comes out of there, then you just gotta just get it to roll once, right? And then you're done for the season. So that's nice, I guess. It is weird that it works like that, though.
Yeah, a little weird. That's how it works. So I feel like in order to stop one thing from happening, they created a totally different monster, which is pretty normal for game creation when you're trying to mitigate something. Is you often trying to dampen one thing makes another thing extreme, and that happened. So as far as Korthia stuff goes with research, I know Rex Troy put out a video about this too, but a lot of the Rift mobs right now, because of all the increases in drop rate on relics, you can get some pretty insane reputation pretty fast and pretty insane amount of relics pretty fast just going into the Rift and going around and killing mobs in there because of all the increases that exist. So there's certainly some motivation for some people to max out easily with that, or buy all the rewards they want with that. Again, for me, since I'd sort of banked up the conduit upgrade items, I was able to max out my conduits on Venthyr right away, which was great. But if you're someone who doesn't really need the conduit items but wants to buy all the mounts and pets and stuff, you could spend like probably an afternoon inside the Rift just continuously going back in every 15 minutes and farming mobs. And if you've bought those upgrades, you will be able to buy all that stuff. You get a ton of relics and a ton of research out of doing that. So Yeah, it's certainly more farmable, like you talked about. I think Korthia is much more accessible, which is great as far as that goes. You one of the things you actually mentioned in your note here is the teleport and requiring achievements. Why don't you address that real quick?
Yeah, well, so I really, 915 didn't really change my habits very much this week. I'm still kind of just basically raid logging, dungeon logging. Just when my friends are around and we're doing PvE stuff, then I'm on, and when we're not, then I'm not. I did some of the new weeklies and stuff. I went to go check out the new stuff in Korthia, of course, and just see, there's that new weekly quest going to the Rift and all that. And man, that stuff is so lucrative. It sort of made me wish that I hadn't played as much 9.1 as I did at the beginning. I enjoyed it in the moment, but like it's so much better now. I couldn't believe how much research I pulled from like a relatively quick lap. I didn't even do everything. I did enough to fill up the bar last week, and I did the new weekly quest, and it's like, oh, here's thousands of research. That was pretty nice. And, a lot of the new additions are really cool. It's just, I have no way to take advantage of them on my main, and I have no interest in swapping covenants, and I have no alts that I'm really desperate to kind of deck out. So it's like, yeah, I can get these BOA items with, I can get them from the Korthia vendor, or I can get the Valor items or whatever, but I have no actual use for them. It's great that they exist, but they're not really for me. But one thing that is for me is being able to go straight to Sanctum of Domination from Venari's Refuge. You have to use that goofy teleporter thing in Venari's Refuge, and you have to have the Sanctum of Domination achievement, which means you have to have killed on that character all 10 bosses in Sanctum of Domination on any difficulty. And if you have that, then instead of the slog from wherever you wanted to start from, whether it was in Korthia or in the Maw, and running through Desmateron full of all these huge, scary elite mobs. If you don't want to do that on a weekly basis or more frequently, you can just go to Venari's Refuge, click the fast travel thing, not the flight path that takes you to Korthia, and not the thing that takes you into Torghast, but the other thing. And yeah, the Desmateron drop-off point is like right in front of the door to Sanctum of Domination, and there's part of me that's like, why wasn't this just here to begin with? Or like, why wasn't this an unlock like the first week or whatever? I do think there's something kind of cool about like, this is dangerous territory. We're playing a role-playing game, right? And like, this is the bad guy's turf. And if you want to go into his house and beat up his friends, like he's not going to make it easy on you. But if you've proven that you can win the fight, then you can make it easy on yourself.
Yeah.
Like I do kind of like that element. I think maybe making it account wide would be okay. Like it is a little weird that it's character based, but I don't really mind the fact that like it's an unlock, because I think it adds flavor. It adds like interesting friction to me, where it's like, well, if you want this convenience point to the raid, then you have to participate into the raid.
Yep.
Keep in mind, you can do this on LFR. It says any difficulty. So, you don't have to go out here over and over and over again if you haven't already unlocked it. Like you could just take an afternoon and go through the LFR wings, and now you have the teleporter on that character. So, that's just huge quality of life for getting raids started, man. Like it was 3 months of like, oh, I'm not there yet. Oh, I'm logging on 5 minutes late. I'm making the run. Oh, we don't have a warlock tonight, so we can't summon you. Oh, now we gotta wait while the 3 people that were late run around and get their powers for Tarragru. It's like, it just cuts down on that stuff. Like what we want to do when it's time to play is to fight bad guys and kill bosses and get loot. We don't want to be running around in circles and dodging enemies that we're trying to run away from and all that. So that was really the big plus for me. I mean, beyond that, I think I played 3 nights last week. Heroic Reclear and our 2 farm mythic bosses were 2 nights. We didn't raid Sunday, but we did some extra mythic plus, working on 20s. Still don't have any in time, but man, last week was actually really hard. I thought it was going to be, trash focused, but like, okay. But that combo, it was just like the trash just doesn't die. Everybody's constantly attacking explosives. You can't pull big because you get too many explosives. There's way more bosses that are bad with explosives than I really realized when I thought about it. So it turned out that like we're getting some good practice. We're doing 20s more consistently. We don't have any in time yet. I got a Plague Fall 19. I think my rating's up over like 2250. So I'm moving up the ladder. But what we want is the teleports, because that's just cool. So this week, as we'll talk about a little bit later, I think is maybe shaping up pretty nicely. So I mean, still having fun with that system. I think the way they did Mythic Plus rating in 9.1 and the way it works in Season 2, and sort of these sort of increasing carrots and sticks have been really fun. So like I'm definitely motivated. I don't know if we're gonna get all 20s or any 20s or whatever before the end of the season, but we will certainly have some time. Although we did get some. There is some knowledge out there that might be. I think some people might be surprised because we saw last week Wowhead reported that data for patch 9.2 hit the CDN, the Content Delivery Network. It's encrypted. They can't data mine it. It's not on a PTR anywhere, but it's out there. And it obviously, like 9.2 builds exist and are probably closer than maybe a lot of people expect. This is even closer than I really expected. And I was optimistic about this. Like, this is like Legion timing, right? Patch is out, new patch is on the CDN. I would expect within the next couple weeks, we're going to hear like a full announcement about features and stuff and PTR dates and whatnot. And then you figure PTR be about 3-ish months or so, and then we should be good to go. Maybe a little bit longer because of holidays and stuff. But that's super exciting. I mean, I think 9.2 is what you kind of hope. Like Ian Hazzikostas also did a lot of press last week. I saw an interview with him in GamesBeat. I saw an interview with him in GameSpot. And, he's talking a lot about sort of failure points in Shadowlands and, what 9.15 represents kind of like a new chapter for them and in terms of how they're approaching designing the game. And I mean, we've kind of talked about it on the show in the lead up to this patch as well. Like, this seems like a philosophy shift. We hope that this portends good things for the future. Ian is saying that as well. Granted, saying things and doing them and how the game turns out and how players feel about it are all, that's a whole different story from saying that. But it's a good start. And I think people have been looking forward to 9.2 for a while because we're expecting tier sets and some of these really traditional kind of World of Warcraft systems. Obviously, seeing the end of the story will be nice, all these things. So it's cool. Yeah, I mean, 9.15 is very maintenance-y. It's very kind of in the weeds for people who are players of the game. 9.2, I think we're expecting a big splash. So it'll be interesting to see if we hear anything more about that this week in terms of like an official announcement of what it's called, what it contains. Maybe we're waiting another couple weeks for some news on it, but it's out there. Like it exists. It's a thing that is, being distributed. So, it's, I mean, how could you not be excited about something like that?
Yeah. I think 9.2 has a lot of carrying it needs to do about getting people to trust Blizzard again. But I do feel like based off the interview we saw from Ian and some other stuff going on that we're probably on the right track for it. A couple other things I wanted to mention real quick about this past week for me in 9.1.5. Anima Conductor Energy, because I was swapping around covenants a lot, is shared between covenants. So if I log in to my Anima Conductor and empower 2 sites in Venthyr, I get 2 little orbs at the bottom of the screen. And then I swap over to Kyrian and I empower 4 at Kyrian. That now goes up to 6 little orbs. And then I swap over to...
Oh, really?
I swap over to Maldraxxus and I empower Maldraxxus. Now I have 8. And now I can actually permanently empower 1 thing in Venthyr by switching back over to Venthyr. So you can massively speed up the rate at which you get the permanent empowereds by just bouncing around covenants and empowering different conductors. You can totally...
That's really cool. Yeah, that's nice.
So that's another big thing to pay attention to if you're someone who's swapping covenants a bunch, is if you want to get all of your conductors upgraded, because it does increase the rewards you get from questing in that area based off the conductor, then you can do that very quickly, which is a neat thing to do. So I've been doing that a bunch. I also played around a bunch with the new stag forms, because there's a bunch of new druid shapeshifts. We got new flight forms. There's like ravens now. There's a couple new stag forms or travel forms that I wanted. So I upgraded one of those. I'm really happy with those appearances. They're great. I really dig them. So kudos. And I think probably the other neatest thing about that is a lot of these are, I think all but one of them actually is learned from Inscryption. So Scribes got something new this past week where they can go out and buy these recipes off of different vendors around Shadowlands and Azeroth and learn them and then craft them and throw them in the auction house. And I was buying them for like 1,000 gold an appearance. Some people were trying to sell them for like 5 or 6. I wasn't going to do that. I'll just wait till more people put them up. But I'm happy to spend 1,000 gold on something that probably cost that person 80 gold to make, just so I can have it.
Right.
That's fine with me.
Plus, it's a scribe, but we got to take care of the scribes.
Exactly, you got to help
they
them
don't
out,
have, they
right?
have so little. Yeah,
exactly. So I had a really good time with that. There's also new soul shapes out, which means at some point or another, I'm gonna have to like bounce back over from Venthyr to Night Fae and do activities as Night Fae to try and earn the new soul shapes. Just because I love some of them, they're very cool looking. So I'm glad they added all that stuff back in. But yeah, overall, like killer week for me in WoW. I really dug it. Had a really good time, and I'm still looking forward to it. This will be my first raid tonight as Venthyr, so I'm pumped about that. I'll have a good time doing that. Then I also have just so much more I want to do with Kyrian and just Anima Farm and everything else that WoW is, for me, become a regular activity again that I'm enjoying. So
nice.
I'm glad that's happened. It's great.
It sounds like the changes worked.
Yeah, works for me. All right, with that, let's jump into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. This week in WoW is the Warlords of Draenor Time Walking event, meaning the Sign of Iron is up, where Warlords of Draenor reputation gains from combat and quests is increased by 50%. You can actually get out there on level 50 or above characters and run time walking versions of Auchindoun, Bloodmaw Slag Mines, Everbloom, Grimrail Depot, and Shadowmoon Burial Grounds and Skyreach. So yeah, first time around we get to actually see Grimrail, and it's going to be dropping 184 eye level loot, as well as the vendor gear of 178, and you got to do 5 of these to get that normal Sanctum of Domination gear if you pick up the quest inside Oribos. But yeah, Grimrail, first time.
Yeah, the debut, right? We'll miss you, Iron Docks, but Grimrail is a nice consolation prize. So
it's not a nice consolation. Docks was great. I would have given up Skyreach for
Sky or Everbloom. Yeah. Everbloom could go too. Like that's they're kind of stickier time walking experiences as well. But I mean, I think in general these dungeons are great. Like we could say a lot about Warlords, and a lot has been said about it on this show and many other places. But one thing I think you cannot assail is the quality of Warlords of Draenor dungeons. These dungeons are very well done, and they were one of the only things that expansion can really hang its hat on for regular players like us. The caveat applies in this expansion that like time walking is just not a good way to get a foot in the door with gear. 184 item level is just a joke for drops. 178 vendor gear is not worth your badges. Take another character out to Korthia and get some tokens and distribute them or whatever. But they're not super long runs, and a cache of normal Sanctum gear is pretty cool. It could be pretty much anything on the table. You get some Mog if you don't have it all, if you're not looking for power. Like, it's still a good event to do. It's also a good way to level if you're in that 50 to 60 band and you want to just mix it up a little bit. I could definitely see that maybe now is a time when people are leveling a lot of characters at once because of the changes with the patch. And so maybe doing the leveling routine is, you want to break from that this week and you want to do some time walking. I think it's still a real strong choice for level up XP.
Yeah. I think it's still a fun option too. I think the dungeons are great. I've always enjoyed a lot of these. As you said, Warlords dungeons were very strong. Warlords raids were very strong. The only criticism I really had about Warlords raids back then was the scaling was terrible, based off of the amount of people in the raid. And there's a lot of encounters that they required a certain amount of interrupts, or they required a certain amount of cooldowns. And if you didn't bring the right classes to meet that at the right scaling, it was very challenging to do. And that was where that struggle happened. But that's also where they really started to discover that issue as a problem. So I don't hold that against them too much. I just hold it against them now when we run into fights that don't scale well, because they've had so many years to fix it since Warlords, where it was really discovered as being a prominent issue. So the content there was great. All right, weekly world boss this week. We got Mortanis, the big bone construct up in Maldraxxus. Remember, this guy is your 500 anima for the week if you're looking to actually, and potentially a renown, if you're looking to get that stuff. That's what my focus is right now. But he also drops your 200 eye level Covenant ability conduits, which means, hey, if you swap over to New Covenant, one of the first things they give you is, here's your 145 eye level version of your Covenant ability conduit. So get that, then go out and kill the world bosses and try and get that 200 eye level version, and then go out and do the quest in the Maw, where you can it happens twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. The helping out a Covenant, assisting a Covenant in the Maw. Those can drop 226 versions of your Covenant ability conduit, which means that's how you can get all of those essentially for free before you use your upgrade to put them up to 252. So keep that in mind. This is part of that track if that's something you're wanting to do. Also drops plate wrists, mail, chest and hands, leather feet, cloth waist, and a mastery haste ring. And if you're someone who's doing a bunch of Torghast farming, Jason, which memories can you craft off of Mortanis?
So Mortanis has your fighter type legendaries. You get Guile Charm for rogues, Vegeta for warriors, and Kiefer for monks. So yeah, if you're out there Torghasting away for your cinders and you need one of these, don't forget to do Mortanis this week and get those memories.
Yeah. Morgeth, the Tormented of the Damned, is still the world boss up inside of Desmateron, which you can now teleport to if you've cleared those first 10 bosses, as Jason said. So this teleport doesn't just take you to the raid from Benari. You can also take this over and kill Morgeth really easily by just popping over there and using the teleporter, which is pretty great. Drops your 200 eye level adaptive armor fragment and condensed animosphere conduits, which once you've gotten in one covenant, you have for all of them, so you don't have to worry about that. As well as your shard of rev, that blood shard that has leech on it, and your 233 eye level gear of cloth wrists and legs, leather hands and waist, mail hands and feet, plate waist and legs, and a mastery trinket with a main stat proc. So be sure you're checking out Morgeth to see if you need any of that stuff. It's also 500 anima and another chance at renown. So be sure you're knocking that out if that's something you're looking for. For this week, we have Skoldus Hall and Coldheart Interstitia inside our Torghast. So if you're looking to run those this week, I'm obviously going to run them on max level and try and get my my upgrades for my Covenant ability conduits for the Covenants that I have not maxed them out on yet. So I'll try and run those on 12s. But yeah, I would recommend if you're someone who's starting to get that cube of many things sort of leveled up as far as all of the different abilities in it go, definitely look at running 10s to farm stuff if that's what you're looking to do in Torghast. Get yourself some extra cinders, get yourself some renown if that's what you're looking for. And I think probably Skoldus might be where I lean towards a little bit over top of Coldheart. Coldheart has a lot more fears involved in it and platform jumping. I think Skoldus might be my choice if I was going to be doing that this week.
Yeah, Skoldus is a pretty straightforward run.
Yeah.
Coldheart's annoying too because you have those like Forsworn that are always diving on your head and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some weird geometry in Coldheart. But these are still, I think, two of the easier runs overall. This is a pretty good combo.
Yeah.
If you're needing to farm it out or you need memories or whatever from here. Yeah, pretty decent week. Skoldus Hall is always like if you just like pound Torghast, like you want Skoldus Hall.
Yeah. As far as your dungeons go for this week, Theater of Pain and Theater of Pain 2, Theater Harder, is out this week. So, you just go to Oribos, pick up both these quests, run one Theater of Pain, get twice the rewards. Feels great. A little bit of anima there. So, certainly worthwhile running. Get to choose the reputation for the Covenant of your choice. Be sure you're picking these up before you do any dungeons this week. I always love when these things double up. PvP quests, random battlegrounds and rated battlegrounds. So it's a battleground week. Unfortunately, not our easy brawl week, but at least we we get some random BGs, some rated BGs if that's what you're looking for. The brawl this week is Deepwind Dunk, which is Deepwind Gorge, but instead of basically it's the better rules for Deepwind Gorge. That's really what it is. If you want to win this brawl, you're going to need to work together with your skills because Dunk Ball has come to Pandaria. You'll race to claim balls from the map's center or northern or southern mines and take them to your enemy's base and go for a dunk on their base net. So basically, it's just speedball. You're just picking up the balls from those 3 points and running them as fast as you can to your opponent's base.
It's like if Deepwind Gorge was actually fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, like, I don't know. I don't really love normal Deepwind Gorge, but Deepwind Dunk is awesome. So
yeah,
it's always cool when this one rolls around. Yeah, pretty good weekly stuff this week. The BGs synergy a little bit if you're a BGs player. You get that stuff done. Fun brawl in Deepwind Dunk. One dungeon gets you 2 weeklies done. I mean, it's pretty nice with the overlaps this week.
Yeah. Mythic Plus, we got Tyrannical, Bursting, and Volcanic, meaning boss enemies have 30% more health and inflict 15% increased damage. When slain, non-boss enemies explode, causing all players to suffer damage over 4 seconds, and it stacks. And while in combat, enemies periodically cause a gout of flame to erupt beneath the feet of a distant player. This is a great week. I think obviously you're going to have to deal with Tyrannical. That is going to make bosses a little bit more of a slog to get through. You're actually going to see some more mechanics. It's going to be a little more tricky. But bursting doesn't really affect bosses, which is great. So you don't have to deal with any kind of overlap as far as that goes. It just means when you're clearing trash, have to be paying attention that you're not refreshing the bursting stack. If it's counting down from 4 seconds, let it finish counting down before you refresh it, unless you're refreshing it like right away at 4 seconds or at 3 seconds. And don't let it go above 5 or 6 stacks, because otherwise your healer is going to hate you unless they have a bunch of cooldowns ready to go for the big crazy pulls that you're going to be doing. So it's just keeping track of bursting, managing your health is really all that that bursting causes you to do. Volcanic doesn't really affect a lot of players other than the ranged ones. So your melee and your tanks don't have to worry about that much unless everyone in the group is melee. So, if you have a paladin or a monk healer, they count as melee. And then you have, 2 other melee DPS or 3 other melee DPS and a tank. Then you'll have to deal with Volcanic inside melee range. But as long as you bring along that one range player who's willing to just deal with all of the Volcanics, you're fine.
Be the decoy.
Yeah, exactly.
Bait it out.
Bait it all out there. Then you're fine. You still have to deal with Volcanics on bosses, and it can suck. You can run into bosses where you need to stand in something or need to be in a certain position, and Volcanic can force you out of that, or essentially interrupt your ability to manage that mechanic properly. But it's not terrible to get hit by one. It doesn't do a ton of damage to you. The biggest thing it does is just throw you up into the air, which means you can't actually interact with things while you're doing that. You can still be casting spells if you're allowed to cast while moving. You can still be meleeing something as long as you don't get thrown way high above it. But in general, just avoid the Volcanics under your feet. Boss is going to take a bit longer, and you're going to have to deal with Volcanic during bosses and manage your bursting stacks for the week. And that's what you got going on for this one.
I think this is one of the best Tyrannical weeks you're going to see, really. This is a pretty nice combo. So, Tyrannical can be the problem is the Tyrannical can be a wall all on its own without any help from anything else. You are going to hit a point where your group is just not going to be able to kill that boss.
Yeah.
Which is like probably not a problem if you're trying to push keys and up your rating and try to get to the next plateau, right? Because you probably know about where that is. So if you know that you're playing with fire, if you get burned, you're not going to be too sad about it, right? But if your goal is just to complete dungeons and you just want to get 4 done or 10 done or what have you for the week, then, you might have to be a little bit pickier, because you don't want to run into a situation where you're spending your time on an uncompletable dungeon. Like, the trash is going to die. You can come back and finish off a trash pack after a wipe or whatever. You got to kill the whole boss at once. So, that can be a bit of a problem if you're just doing it for, weekly completion. But I mean, really, I don't think there's a lot to complain about for this Tyrannical week. It should be a good one.
Yeah. As far as the micro holiday for the week goes, it's one of our favorites. It's the Moonkin Festival. It's going to be happening this Friday, the 12th. It's Friday the 12th. And basically you head out to Moonglade and you get to participate in all of the celebrations that involve for the Moonkin Festival, in teaching all of the little mini Moonkins how to dance and how to moonfire things. And it's all very adorable and cute. And you'll be able to get a quest that lets you actually get Moonkin, sort of little baby who's going to follow you around, little baby Moonkin who follows you around. And you can actually get a squad of up to 5 of them that are going to follow you around for the next 5 days if you do all of the quest chains involved in that. It's a lot of fun. I dig this one. I like having my Moonkin posse. It feels really cool. There's nothing like flying through the air with this like posse of 5 little baby Moonkins following you around. It's fantastic.
It's so good. I love this one. I do it every year. A couple caveats with this: be careful if you're doing this and like entering arenas, PvP instances, because typically it'll clear all of your buffs, including the buff that gives you the baby Moonkins, and that's pretty sad.
Very sad.
Also, it could do weird stuff. Like sometimes I've noticed over the years, maybe this won't happen this time around, but like if I'm in a raid and I pull a raid boss with like heroic throw, so I'm not in melee range of the boss, the baby Moonkins will do their moonfire animation, and it doesn't do any damage or anything. But like if they moonfire it, for some reason, sometimes the bosses will like snap aggro onto a baby Moonkin and despawn, and then you get away. So, it's pretty funny when that happens. Like, it's funny now, but if it happens to me next week, it's not going to be funny in the moment, right? Because you're wasting stuff, you're wasting consumables or cooldowns or whatever because you despawn the boss with your baby Moonkin. But you know what? It's a small price to pay for having the Moonkin squad for 1 week out of the year.
Yeah, I remember running raids in BFA, and it was hilarious to be attacked. Like there are other members of my raid who would comment on me because I'd be casting stuff on a boss, and you're watching my baby Moonkins put up Moonfire and stuff on the boss, and they thought it was adorable. Like it's like, oh my goodness,
Moonfire barrage. Yeah,
it's hilarious. So they were digging it. It's cool. I definitely enjoy this micro holiday.
This is what micro holidays are all about, man. This is one of the best ones. Yeah. I encourage you to go do it on Friday because it's super fun, and who doesn't want to roll deep with the Moonkin squad?
Yeah. All right. We also have WoW's 17th anniversary coming up. It's getting up there now. It's going to be on the 15th.
Really.
It's going to be on the 15th, and it's going to run until December 6th. It'll be legally allowed to drink inside Montreal. That's the Quebec. Quebec, you could legally drink as WoW now. It's crazy. This is going to run for a couple of weeks. They usually do some pretty big celebration stuff. You can get an achievement. Sometimes there's pets or mounts or toys associated with this. There's often sales on store items associated with this. So just keep your eyes open. We'll obviously report on it when this rolls around next week. So that we
I assume we'll have that big XP buff. Yeah, and you'll have the world bosses will be back and stuff. I'm not expecting anything big this year because nothing was data mined in advance, right? Like there would have been something in patch 9.15 probably that would have been data mined and been like, hey, this looks like a thing that's maybe like an anniversary present. I mean, 2 years ago we did the 15th and we got those really cool like Deathwing style mounts. Like we knew about that in, I don't know, February that year or something. Like it was stuff that sort of showed up in the data very early. I don't think we'll have anything like super cool this year, like unique to this year, but they have really built up the anniversary event a lot over time. It is going to be a really good opportunity to level characters, collect some unique appearances if you don't have them. And yeah, it's pretty generous. I mean, 3 weeks is a really long time for an in-game holiday by WoW standards. So yeah, very cool. Kicking off this coming Monday.
Yeah. Oh man. Happening very soon. All right. As far as hotfixes go, we actually had a round of hotfixes that went out this past week. There were some for classes addressing particular abilities, having the resets work inside Raid. I was super excited last week about Convoke being something that was supposed to reset after a boss was defeated, or after you had a wipe on a boss, and then it wasn't. I went through the entire Raid night last Tuesday without having that, and I was very disappointed because they had told me specifically that it was going to do that, and then they fixed it. So now it does. Blessing of Sacrifice, Die by the Sword, Enrage Regeneration, Fleshcraft, and Convoke now all properly reset their cooldowns when an encounter ends, boss encounter ends. So that's a big deal. So we can actually start using those abilities and not waiting for them to come off cooldown.
Hopefully that includes despawns due to baby Moonkin Moonfire barrages. Because if as long as it resets everybody's cooldowns, then those baby Moonkin can just do their thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Just remember that also none of that reset stuff includes like your shaman res or your big demon that you summon for your warlock. Like those long cooldowns, they're particular and not getting reset every single fight, because oh my god, would shaman ever be cheating if every single encounter they could always get free res?
You just always reset the boss before every single pull. Yeah,
wow,
it'd be nice actually.
It'd be pretty powerful.
Although you drive your raid nuts. Like, could you just not die on this one, maybe, shaman? Like, let's just stay alive. Then you don't need to stand up. We're sick of resetting bosses all night to reset. Maybe that's why they did it. Could be.
They also have temporarily removed the cap on Conquest and Valor. So temporarily makes it seem like, oh, hey, it's only going to be gone for a little bit. No, it's till the next season. They decided that, hey, you know what? Once we get far enough into a season, there's no reason for us to have a cap on Conquest and Valor. Let's let people continue to earn Conquest and Valor. And at the end of the season, before we start the next one, you'll just get cashed out for a bunch of gold based off of, what's remaining, so that you start next season off at 0, where you're supposed to start off the new season, and the caps will be back. So if you're someone who this week was like, wait a minute, I'm way above my Valor or Conquest cap, what's going on? It's because they disabled it. There's no cap at the moment, and it'll come back next season when stuff starts up. But for now, regardless of whether or not you have stuff to spend Valor or Conquest on, you still earn it, which means that you can then get the gold reward at the end of the season for just playing the game. So always glad to see stuff like this. It's nice to just reward people for just playing the game.
Yeah, I love this. This wasn't documented anywhere. We just kind of logged in after servers came up last week, and then it's like, oh, you mouse over your Valor in your currency tab, and there's no slash there with a number on the other side, right? Um, I hope this just becomes standard practice. I do think it makes sense to have caps early on because you don't want to encourage people to grind their faces off for minimal advantages over other players, and it creates just unintended consequences, I think. But you do reach a point where it's like, I don't care about Valor anymore. I have really nothing left to use it on except maybe buying gear for other characters. I have the drops I want. I have them upgraded as far as they're going to get. I'm still getting thousands of Valor a week because I'm trying to push keys. So it's, I don't even really think about it. And I've done a lot of stuff this season that bumped up against the cap and that didn't reward Valor because it should have. Like maybe as we get closer to the end of the season, maybe I will buy some gear for an alt, and just get them, a foothold into 9-2 if I decide to play it. And that's a cool option to have. So I think, maybe I would like to see something like this going forward. Season 3 starts, maybe we get a 9.25 down the road at some point, just some quality of life, like systems adjustment thing. And then, remove the cap for the rest of the season. I think that's a really good way to do it because the cap really only has the impact at the outset of the season, right? Once the cap is like 30K or whatever, if you grind all that up in a week on a character because you're below the cap, well, then you just did the thing they were trying to prevent you from doing at the beginning of the season, but also now you're done, right? Like you don't need any more Valor at that point. So you didn't get way ahead of the pack by spending that time, right? I think that's the whole goal of the cap is to keep everybody sort of in like a power band at the outset of a season, so nobody's like way ahead because they could spend way more time. And yeah, I mean, by 3 months into the season, that totally outlives its usefulness.
Yeah, I'm with you entirely on that. I feel like this is one of those situations where anytime you can reward someone for just playing the game, that's great. And I think it's also a situation where they have to have caps early on because then the correct way to play is the same thing we talked about with, missions and everything else, is to just non-stop grind Valor, constantly upgrade everything to its max level as fast as you can, kind of thing, which is, it's not what they want. So I get the idea of having caps. I also fully agree with removing caps. And I almost think you can remove them a little bit earlier than this if you wanted to. I think after the first 2 months of a raid tier being out, you can probably look at starting to remove caps from things because at that point, if people want to just like push to try and have the gear to finish clearing the raid, then great, that should be fine for them to do. I don't really see a purpose in capping it out still, but yeah, I think it's great. I always like to see it. Okay, as far as your Covenant goes with Queen's Conservatory, they made those little catalysts now stack up to 200 as opposed to 20. So,
which was they made Seeds do it first, but the Catalyst didn't do it in the patch. It was a hotfix the next day. Yeah, I mean, nobody wants a bag full of stuff for the Conservatory. Let's just have big stacks.
Yeah, they can do that with everything at this point. I don't know if maybe they have. I haven't played around with Kyrian enough to know if all of those other consumables now stack up really high or everything else stacks up high, but I'm with you that they could certainly do that with everything and just make everything stack very high in stacks. I was playing a different game yesterday for a little bit, and they had stacks that ended at like 13 and 28, and it was driving me nuts. I don't know why people don't.
Wow, that's we like round numbers. We want it to end in a 0. I mean, a 5 if you absolutely have to, but exactly. 0. I'd rather have a smaller stack that ends at 0 than a stack that ends at 13.
Yeah, it was a little bizarre. So yes, it's important to me to have that work properly. One of the, as I mentioned, as far as inscriptions goes, the Mark of the Midnight Runestag, it's one of the ones you can go and buy now and actually craft. So if you're someone who's like, hey, I want to get these new, transformations, what are they even called if I'm searching for them in the auction notes? They're all the Mark of is what they all are. So just type the space mark space of, and then search, and you'll find all of the marks for all the different transformations. So you can find all of those if you're looking for them. They also made Power Infusion, Time Warp, Mystic Touch, and Demonic Gateway anima powers no longer be offered to characters who haven't learned these abilities yet inside of Torghast. Torghast, they're just sort of streamlining a lot of this because it's like, oh, well, people are now leveling inside Torghast, right? And so you might not have learned these abilities yet, and that could be why it's kind of useless to get anima powers for stuff you can't cast / don't cast. So
Yeah, that's a little bit of a weird. That's stuff you kind of don't think about, right? Like at the outset, like very high level, it's like, okay, we're making these changes. Like, okay, cool, yeah, that just opens things up. But then you do have these sort of little points of friction.
Yeah. And then other than that, that's pretty much all the hot fixes we needed to cover for this stuff. There's a new quest line to talk to Briani in the Legion Dalaran to start the quest Pets Detective, which rewards a blue Murloc battle pet. So if you're someone who wants to get one of the new Murlocs, these things come out every now and then, you can head and talk to Briani in the Legion Dalaran, and you can pick up that Pets Detective quest.
Yeah, I haven't done this yet, but I'm definitely going to. This is kind of an annual event at this point, right? It seems like about this time of year, every year. Well, I guess I don't know. It's been the last couple of years that a quest shows up and you can do some stuff and get a unique Murloc pet. It's usually tied in with some consumer product release, which I believe there's some Funko Pop blind box thing or something that's on sale now that includes a blue Murloc, and so now you can get a blue Murloc in the game. I kind of preferred when they would do the plushie toys on the store, but that's just me.
I'm with you on that.
But yeah, I love when they do this stuff. I love when we just get like a surprise in the game, and especially when it's something that's like not, world altering stakes. This is the kind of stuff that really makes it feel like a living world in an MMORPG. The one last year was to get like a red one or something. I forget what color the one last year was, but the quest line was actually really fun. You had to go to Northrend and do some fishing or something, some underwater stuff. My underwater breathing gear came in handy. So that was cool. I haven't checked this one out yet, but it looks like it's pretty fun from screenshots and stuff I've seen online. So yeah, definitely if you're a pet collector or just a Murloc aficionado, you want to check that out, you can go do it right now. Just head over to Dalaran Legion version.
Yeah, and enjoy that for sure. I don't think I've done the purple one. I need to go back and do the purple one. I have never got around to doing that quest.
That's what it was. That was one last year, right?
Yeah.
With the underwater business. Yeah, that was cool. You should definitely do that. It was a good time.
Yeah.
And when it first came in last year, there was some pretty tight competition to get it started because only one person at a time could start it. You probably won't have that issue if you go back and do the purple Murloc now. I don't think people will be lining up to snatch that spawn from you.
Yeah, it's why I didn't go and do it immediately. As I heard your story as well as a bunch of other stories from other people about how like much competition there was to get it, and it was a single start. And so I was like, I'll get it later when everyone else has kind of done it and addressed it. And then I just forgot. And then I was like, oh yeah, right. I still need to get that purple Murloc pet. Let's go do that at some point. So yeah, I'll have to pop out and do that. Okay, with that, let's play a quick sounder for our patrons, and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. Today, I'm giving a special shout out to Arajian, Bob, Celian, Jeff, Kapawi, Mibble the Mighty, and Shorel. Thank you. This sounder is for you. Our Patreon is located over at patreon.com/thestartingzone. We have no new patrons this week, but we are going to have some November events scheduled up. We might try and push that and make sure it's happening towards, I guess, later in the month, because I am wondering if we're going to get some sort of announcement with 9.2 stuff this month. And so I might want to try and schedule this for the 26th or 27th or something, a couple weeks away, to see if something happens.
It would be really sad to book the show and then have people come on and join us and submit questions, and then 4 days later it's like, hey, guess what? Guess what's coming to World of Warcraft? And then we got to wait a whole another month to talk to patrons about it. So that might be prudent. I mean, yeah, if you have your ear to the ground with this stuff, then it definitely seems like we should be getting 9.2 news sooner than later, which I'm sure people are going to want to talk about after the last year of Shadowlands stuff. So yeah, we definitely will have a show on the calendar, but I think it is prudent to maybe wait until that last weekend of the month, just in case. Thank you, patrons, for your support of the show and for making the bonus episodes and stuff possible, and everything you contribute around here. It really makes the show happen. So thank you.
Yeah, as always, big thank you and shout out to all of our patrons. We appreciate all the support. I love chatting with you guys inside Discord. You can find our Discord over at thestartingzone.com/Discord, and you just click a button. I'll join you into our Discord, and you'll be all good to go. And you can chat with us, and it's been neat this past week chatting with people about 915, and I'm looking forward to call and show stuff to be able to actually like chat some more, get a little more in depth, see where people are at, and with hopefully more 9.2 news, lots to talk about.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yep.
I mean, I hope we get it in time to do the patron show, but you know, it's definitely around the corner. Like it won't be long until we have some details, but yeah, it'd be so nice if the timing lined up.
Yeah, it'd be great. If you folks have enjoyed this episode of The Starting Zone, consider heading on over to your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts. Leave us that 5-star review. They really help out our show, and we love hearing from our listeners. This one comes in from Tierlarian, I'm going to guess, or Tyrelarian. It's Tierlarian? I think it's Tierlarian.
Something like that, yeah. I think that's about as good as we can do without context.
Thanks. I mean, as long as I didn't like miss actually this name is, and it's 3 different things broken down.
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything. Right, we'll go with Tierlarian. Yeah,
cool. Entitled New Listener says, just found your show a couple weeks ago and absolutely love it. It's a great way to keep me engaged in 9.1. How do you all stay engaged with WoW during content droughts? All the best and keep up the amazing work. Well, I mean, honestly, to answer your question that you threw in here, we don't stay as engaged during content droughts in the matter that Jason and I play the game a lot when there is a lot to do. We're big into farming. We're big into that kind of gameplay. We're big into grinds. And so when there isn't that aspect to the game, we don't play the game as much. I still Mythic Raid. I still make sure my characters are prepared and ready for it. But there isn't as much else going on. The biggest tip I always give people who feel like they're in a content drought, want to play World of Warcraft, they find themselves logging into WoW and then just sitting there and being like, I don't really know what I want to do, but I want to be in World of Warcraft, but there's nothing for me to do. Set a goal, set an objective, right? So decide what it is you want to accomplish, whether it's an old raid you want to farm for a particular reward or mount or whatever it is, whether it's a profession. One of the things I love doing is getting a bunch of crafting materials together and learning how to craft a new legendary is something I do lately. I learned how to do belts was what I did last week. I was like, all right, I'll make it so I can make the 262 belts or whatever it is, 269 or I don't remember what it was, whatever. 262 I think is the max right now. Belts is what I was doing. So I chose to do that, farmed up the materials for it, did the auction housing stuff I need to do and do that. So set yourself a goal or an objective that you're trying to accomplish. Because it'll give you a reason to log in and give you direction once you are online. And I often find with World of Warcraft, once I'm on and I'm actually out farming and doing stuff and experiencing the world, there's other things that I decide I want to do while I'm doing it, right? It's the getting going that I find is what really hurts me inside a content drought. If I log in and there isn't a reason for me to be online, I don't stay online. I need to actually have a goal or objective I'm working towards. So right now, I need anima for everything. So my goal right now is get on and farm anima. And then what ends up happening is while I'm on farming anima, I go, oh, maybe I'll run a Mythic Plus. Or, oh, this other person's on. Maybe I'll chat with them. Or, oh, hey, look, these people are running an old raid. Let's go run that with them. Or, hey, these people are doing an achievement run. I haven't done those achievements yet. Let's get those ones. Or, hey, you know what? It's actually Squirt Week with pet battle stuff. So maybe I'll grind out some pet battles this week. Or, whatever it is, that tends to be what pops up while I'm online. Just having a goal to get you on is my trick.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. I would say in my case, like I haven't really necessarily felt content droughts to the extent that other players have in the past because I was working on an alt stable or whatever. It was like, okay, I'm going to level up this character. I got to work on this allied race. I'm trying to get this heritage armor set. I'm trying to get this, that, or the other thing. And so, even if during the week or, solo playtime would kind of ebb and flow depending on what my projects were, there's also always like raid stuff. I have my organized, scheduled time to play with my friends and my guild and stuff. I think keeping that going is key to, preserving my interest in the game. At the moment, like what I need to do for myself is just not spend that much time in the game outside of those times. There isn't anything that's really pulling me in. So it's not really productive as a WoW player or as a human being for me to spend time looking for things to do in WoW. There's nothing pulling me in, but I have the schedule and I have an obligation to run the group and to, have an environment for people to play the game in. And I have goals I'm working on like Mythic 20s and I think that's fine. You know, when 9.2 comes out, it'll ramp up a lot, and I'll have a whole new set of goals. But in this case, I think it's okay to kind of be in that mode. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to play WoW for 6 hours a day to be a WoW player. You also don't have to stop playing WoW if you're enjoying what you're doing. You know, I think the big thing comes down to, like, what are the expectations set between you and the people that you're playing with, right? Is your unwillingness to play, is it creating a problem for people that you're playing with? Are there social stakes? Are you maybe not going to have people to play with when you're feeling more motivated because they're moving on without you, or things are not functioning because of that? Like, there's that whole social layer to multiplayer WoW that is separate from the content, and that can be really tricky to navigate for sure, because sometimes you just don't feel like it, but your friends can't do what everybody has assembled to do if you don't feel like it. So I think having communication and stuff with your friends and your guildies and your teammates and your peers around where you're at with the game is also really important. But yeah, I think, like, in my case, over the years, like, I had many goals. I mean, I have 37 or 38 characters at level 50 or above, right? Something just ridiculous, because I was doing all the different races and all the allied races. I wanted all the heritage armors. I have like 4 of each tanking class, between the 2 factions. It's way more characters than I could ever play or keep up with. At one point in time, I had to put the time in to get them up to that point, but I'm not really feeling motivated to get them to level 60 from level 50 right now. It's not like super time efficient, and there's no reward. It's not like I get, some new unique MOG or something like I was doing in BFA, for example. So,
right.
Yeah, it's tough. I guess where I'm at this point in my life is, like, I don't feel like I need reasons to stay engaged with WoW. Like, I play WoW when I want to and as much as I want to, and I don't do anything other than that, right? Like,
Yeah.
If that means I want to play it a lot, then that's what I do. And if I don't want to play it a lot, then I don't. But I also don't disappear when people are counting on me to run groups and to get stuff organized. I take my commitments to my teammates seriously, which really has nothing to do with the actual content in the game.
Yeah. Who you play with is one of my biggest draws to the game. I find when it's hard, when it feels the most like a drought for me in the game is when the people who I play the game with aren't around very much. That's where I really need to have, like, individual solid motivation for a goal that I want to accomplish. Because if my goal is, hey, I want to get all 20s in time, but my buddies who I run Mythic Plus with, they're just never around, I'm always trying to pug 20s, it just kills the motivation, right? So I think that's part of it too for me, is having the people that want to play, for sure.
Yeah, that's the number one thing that keeps me involved in the game. The content is almost kind of secondary. It's more just like the social circle of people that I play WoW with, and
Right.
Our kind of routine of hanging out for a couple nights a week and killing bosses. Like, to me, that stuff is more important than the actual game content. But the game content certainly has an impact on how much time and energy I want to invest in the game at any particular moment in time.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that's going to wrap up episode 46 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show and leave us your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Twitter or Discord, being thestartingzone.com/Discord, as I mentioned earlier. We do have some swag over at TeePublic. That's teepublic.com/stores/thestartingzone, where you can check out designs on shirts and stickers and mugs and all that kind of stuff. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
Best place to find me, as always, is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald, always talking whatever's going on in and around WoW and other stuff that I'm into. So come say hi.
Nice. If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.